Alright, hear me out guys. For this presentation, I'm going to need you guys to do a little role play of your future adult self. And to all the actual adults here, please humor me and take a trip to the past. Let's say, why did it go forward? Let's say you're fresh out of school. You're lucky enough to have a job. Also, you're lucky enough to have a spouse and 2 kids. If you were only one, they would get lonely. I would know. I'm an only child. So, anyway, your parents boot you out, obviously, because you're an adult with a family. Get your own place. And you log onto good old Zillow.com looking for a house in Connecticut. Let's say you want 3 bedrooms, 1 for yourself and 3 for the kids, and 2 bathrooms, so that if someone's taking too long in the shower, you don't have to relieve yourself in a bush. Wow, look at this house. Don't you love that color? And this too. Oh, this one's so cute. You know, I'd actually be very happy with any of these. It's like a dream come true. The American dream. Oh, there was supposed to be sound. There was supposed to be a vine boom there, guys. Sorry. Anyway, but look at these prices. They are not too dreamy. That's like at least 2 Choate tuition. Okay, so let's find another house. I don't need space. That's okay. Who needs privacy anyway, right? I could live in an apartment or a townhouse. Why can't I find one? Why are these houses so expensive? And why do they all look the same? Okay, role play over. I can answer both of those questions. The first is the simple concept of scarcity. Limited resources available to satisfy unlimited wants. Because we eventually run out of houses, you gotta pay to have them. And boy, have we run out. It's estimated that America might need up to 5.5 million more units in order to have enough housing for everyone. The answer to the second question, which is very much so related to the first, has a lot to do with restrictive zoning laws, especially single-family zoning. Single-family zoning laws are exclusionary housing policies that prohibit multifamily housing, or basically when multiple families live in the same building, in specific regions. But not just big, ugly apartment buildings that make people say, "Not in my backyard." I'm talking even townhouses, or triplexes, or duplexes. These zones allow only detached homes for one household, sharing no walls with another property on their own piece of land. Now, going back to our little Connecticut role play, 91% of our land is zoned to be this way, mostly suburbs and small towns. But around 75% of residential land around the country is also zoned to be this way. Okay, ready? Let's play a game. Pink is single-family housing, blue is multifamily housing. Let's look for the blue. You ready? Oh. You guys seeing it? Because I don't really. Yuck. Anyway, even in areas zoned, and there's other forms of exclusionary zoning too. Let's look at Cupertino, California, which has minimum lot requirements mandating that single-family lots, or the land reserved for the home, has to be a minimum of 5,000 square feet, even though the starter homes themselves usually only take up around 1,400 to 1,500 square feet, leaving less space for other units to be built. Fun fact, 81% of land in Connecticut requires an acre of land for each home, and almost 50% of land requires 2 acres, which is an entire football field and a half for all you Americans. Even in areas zoned for multifamily buildings, there's a 2-story limit, so you can't really fit that many families comfortably. And in others, you need 2 parking spaces for each unit of parking. So if you had an apartment that was, say, 50 units, you would need 100 parking spaces. Good luck finding a plot of land that big. So ultimately, because these policies make it so difficult to build multifamily housing, builders routinely choose to make homes that look like this. There was supposed to be a sound effect, guys. Sorry. Now, you may be thinking, this is kind of silly. Why did the government do this? Why wouldn't we want to build housing that maximizes our space and that people can actually afford? Well, let's take another trip back in time to the late 1800s. Urban tenements like these were cheaply built and densely packed by exploitative landlords. As a result, they gained the reputation of being sources of disease, crime, and immorality. But not so much immorality on the part of the landlords who created these conditions as much as the occupants who literally had nowhere else to live because they were marginalized. Low income, new immigrants, basically people that American society did not really think fondly of. Now, the 1920s and 30s roll around, and things haven't really changed. The Supreme Court hears this case and endorses single-family zones for excluding parasite apartment buildings. But really, I think they meant to agree with them. Then, President Hoover, our favorite, made a moral claim about single-family housing being the only type of housing that people could really, truly call home, because it was, quote, alive with the tender associations of childhood, the family life at the fireside, the free out of doors, the independence, the security, and the pride and possession of the family's own home, the very seat of its being, end quote. So if you can afford one, and this probably means if you are not wealthy, which also meant, well, means, but especially at the time, if you are not white, I don't know what to tell you, man. If you don't have that house, your family's just inferior. Then, after World War II, GI Bills making housing affordable to white veterans led to a suburban boom, triggering white flight from urban neighborhoods that were shady, dangerous, sketchy, ghetto. Basically, they did not want to live near ethnic minorities. When they left, these communities became even more segregated, causing the concentration of poverty, which causes disorder, which causes worse living conditions. So naturally, when people of color with the financial means to do so tried to move out into the suburbs, restrictive laws, discriminatory laws and practices like redlining prevented them from doing so. But then, in 1968, we passed the Fair Housing Act, and that kind of stuff became illegal. Yay! Except these exclusionary zoning laws became a loophole to preserve segregational development patterns without breaking the law. And so it has remained. Now, in debate, I teach that the most important part of any argument is to show why people should care. What are the effects of these laws on us, on our communities? For one, the scarcity created has driven prices up significantly and contributed to our housing crisis, making it harder for young people like us to ever dream of homeownership. It also makes it so that we have to buy cars as well as houses. Think of it this way. Because fewer people are allowed to live on each plot of land, as cities grow, they sprawl away from resources and public transit and business, and so we become dependent on cars to go to school, work, or just buy groceries, leading to increased traffic congestion and emissions. And speaking of emissions, utility bills and upkeep of a single home with a well-mowed lawn and a well-lit driveway are much more expensive than those for a multifamily home. So there's an environmental cost too. And don't you care about the environment? Finally, you should care because people of color and low-income households either remain unhoused or continue to be funneled into segregated neighborhoods where poverty is already concentrated. As I've said, these areas already suffer from economic disinvestment in services, education, and building upkeep, leading to higher rates of asthma, lead poisoning, and mental health issues, among many other things. Underfunded schools and a lack of job opportunities prevent upward mobility, so people turn to violent and criminal subcultures instead to get by. Children are socialized in this environment, perpetuating the cycle, and so in between the health, economic, and social consequences, it is making inequality worse and worse. So, what can we do about it? We've actually already started. In 2021, California eliminated single-family zoning completely. Oregon and Minneapolis have passed similar measures, and planners across the country are working to do the same. But is this enough? Because remember, multifamily housing can be inaccessible too. We can look to Montgomery County, Maryland, where 12 to 15% of new developments are set aside for low-income households, some of which are bought by the city government so that they can remain affordable. As a result, 2/3 of low-income households live in integrated low-poverty households there. Neighborhoods, sorry. We also have this program, which allows people to get vouchers to move out of their crowded neighborhoods, but they've been ineffective so far because people are either reluctant to move into an unfamiliar, unwelcoming space, or just simply can't find the housing by themselves. It's harder than you think. So in addition to changing zoning policy, we can also offer counseling programs that introduce people to different communities and help them locate new properties. So that can help with this. Programs like the GoTro assisted housing program in Chicago, which is, as you all know, one of the most historically segregated cities in the country, have already been successful with this. Public opinion is shifting, and more young people are becoming disillusioned with the stereotypical American dream that has perpetuated this problem. It gives me hope, the recent policy changes, and I hope give you hope too, that just because our neighborhoods, our cities, our communities have been constructed this way, doesn't mean that has to be permanent. Because remember, even something set in stone can be torn down and built anew. Thank you.